Are you planning an outdoor playground for kids? How do you get from here, point A, to there, point B?
There you go. Okay,
Generally, the timeline is a little like having a baby. 9 months is the typical time from consultation to installation. So if you're planning a playground, there truly is no time like the present. In this video, we cover the planning process. Yes, it's a process of decision-making, budgeting, site picking and preparation, design, and finally, installation. Let's get started with planning. Where is your playground going? How big is your potential area?
When determining your site, you need to assess a few things. Is your area flat, like this? Is it sloped and needs to be evened out? How's the accessibility? Can an installer get to it easily? Does it have access to water? Now you'll want to measure your job site. It's a little cold outside, so today we're inside. I like to use a measuring wheel, but some people will actually use a tape measure. Oftentimes people will measure the site themselves. Once in a while they'll have somebody else come and actually measure it for them.
Try to determine what's underneath the ground. If you can, check any records or history from the site, and certainly call 811. Every state has a Before You Dig call center. One of our installers, Glenn, advises that you eliminate hazards and surprises early on, avoiding delays and expenses later on.
Because when you dig holes, you can find tree roots that you got to come into contact with. You got to pull those out. Bricks, concrete, an old structure was there. We'll run into that stuff all the time. Absolutely what's under the ground that you don't see is what you've got to figure out and get the proper equipment to take care of it when it comes to you.
6 or 7 slides going in, 2 rock walls, some tunnels. It's going to be super exciting.
Barbara Myhall of this Northside Indianapolis church says part of their planning process was to reach out for ideas and input, which in turn led to consensus and buy-in.
Once we started putting out some of the prototypes, we had a couple different options, and we put them up on a board and invited the community to come see the different mock-ups that we had been given. And people were able to tell us what they liked, what they didn't like, and then we selected the most popular one, which was also the staff favorite.
Before we get any further, let's talk about 2 terms that you might need to know when you're picking out a structure or playground design. Use zone and fall height.
The use zone, also known as the safety zone, is a 6-foot area we put around all of our equipment. That way kids can safely and effectively play on our equipment without having any issues. We obviously put in some areas for slide exit zones and other special cases to make sure that kids are safe when playing on our equipment.
Let's move on to the fall height. The fall height is the vertical distance from the highest designated play surface to the play surfacing below. We use this to determine how much play surfacing you're going to need underneath your play structure.
Now, who's going to use the playground? Different age groups require different types of equipment and structures. The Parks Department of Martinsville, Indiana has just installed 4 structures. Who's using them? Lots of kids.
You've definitely got to consider the target ages of children coming into the park and what is going to be best suited for the age groups that you see coming in on a regular basis. That's a big deal.
The 3 targeted age groups for any playground planning are 2 to 5 years old, 2 to 12 years, and 5 to 12 years old. Toddler to preteen, that's a big difference. Consider how many children may be using the equipment. Is it a big school, daycare, or a small pocket park? And remember any special needs. Will children need access to handicap accessible equipment? Will there be any physical or developmental limitations? Whether it's a public project, private, or a mix of both, you'll need to figure out a budget. Be ready to do the math and allow for revisions and possible changes. We also have a fundraising and grant guide with more information on playgroundequipment.com. St. Paul's Church built on the planning feedback they received from church members to help raise money for individual playground pieces, even surfacing. Ever heard of rubber mulch madness?
And as part of that, we said, you've been with us to this point. Now we need you to jump in with a little bit of funding for us. We needed a lot of mulch. And so, we just trying to encourage people to really jump in on that and help us fill the playground with some long-lasting recycled rubber. We had some generous parishioners who agreed to do a match for us. So they said that they would help raise funds by matching donations that were made.
And what's your timeline? How soon do you want this? Climate and season can come into play. Our crews, weather permitting, can work year-round, but weather extremes and precipitation may still come into play. Then there's just getting the equipment in stock and shipped. Customized orders and colors can add to that timeline. Again, plan as soon as possible. Now let's move on to design. Do you have a concept or theme in mind? It's time to get specific. There's a good chance your playground will include some of the standards: slides, swings, merry-go-rounds, spring bouncers. But there can be so much more.
Here we go.
Christian, one of the designers, says the possibilities can be endless.
One of your options are sensory equipment, which consists of panels and bongos. Something like this where it has, it's a chime panel, so it has notes here that you can hit that have different notes come out of the sound. Here we have a fully accessible playground. It mainly consists of these ramps here so that anyone in a wheelchair can get up them to play on these elevated play components. So if you're wanting something that's more physical, we do have a Get Physical line, which has a lot of advanced traverses, along with a lot of overhead climbing things for upper body strength.
One of your biggest decisions is your choice of playground surfacing and borders. They include surfaces from wood fiber or rubber mulch, all the way up to PIP, poured-in-place rubber surfacing, which is the top of the line in safety, longevity, design options, and yes, price. Back to your budgeting, surfacing is a major decision and price consideration, no matter what you put in.
When planning your playground, it's important to consider accessory pieces, such as benches, tables, trash receptacles, or shades. Anything that allows families to stay longer and play longer.
Now it's time for action. Installation. Your site needs to be prepared for delivery and install. At this point, you will have determined your installation options. Install on your own, a supervised installation, or a full installation by a trained, safe, and reliable crew.
I'm the only full-time person up here. So I knew it was going to be tough to try to do it on my own, you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't for sure that we would be able to get it done in an efficient time, with just us, especially never putting a piece of playground equipment in my life. Unless you're an expert at playground equipment, I would say it's probably, consider it, and it's probably best to let the professionals handle the work.
For more information, watch these videos on installation and shipping and delivery. And to see all of our videos on many topics, go to playgroundequipment.com.